If you want to see me create my first look with the Queen of Hearts palette from Coloured Raine, then stick around. Hi there, it's Hélène, and yes, it is my first video using the Coloured Raine palette. That is the Queen of Hearts. This is the palette that Coloured Raine, I think, is best known for, other than single shadows, and more recently maybe the Vivids. But this is what it looks like on the inside, 12 shadows. I just finished using the Cheers to the Beauty quite a bit, used all the shadows in there, and I am ready to go into this one. Now, I will admit that at Easter, I did use 2 shadows to complement my look. I used Majesty and Dethrone. This one right there. And it was just on the lid for both. I had other shadows going on, but I was really happy with the look. The only thing that I would say is that I would, for Majesty, use a glitter glue because there was a little bit of fallout on my face later on, even though I used my finger to really try to pat it in. Today, though, is my first impressions on camera with a full look with the Queen of Hearts palette. And what you'll see is I have a base already to set my primer, but I don't have any colorful shadow yet. All of it is going to come from this palette. My plan, ooh, I almost dropped it. My plan today is to go in with the purples. So I was looking at a number of colors. I was looking at Queenmother, Noblewoman, which is beautiful, and Ladyship. And Ladyship, if you look at the swatches, and I'll put the swatches right here, Ladyship swatched the poorest, but the thing with mattes is that sometimes that is misleading and they end up looking just fine. So I do want to use that one. I think that those colors will be sufficient as far as giving me a lot of color on the eye today, and today is a work day, so I want to make sure I don't go overboard. And I'm looking for another matte to work with along with Ladyship, and I think I'm going to choose Duchess. So I'm already doing purples. I was thinking initially of Empress, the kind of burnt orange, but I think that might be a bit much. So I'm going to go Duchess, Ladyship, and I think for today I'm going to go Queenmother and maybe brighten up Queenmother with this one, which is Crown. And Crown is a very, very light pinky shimmer. I think that might look good on the inner lid, just kind of over Queenmother a little bit. So we are going to try this out and see how it goes, one shadow at a time, and I hope I don't mess up. So let's see how this palette performs for a full look. And I'm also testing out Smashbox brushes, so you'll see most of them will be red brushes with the black ferrule. I decided to finally fully test out my Smashbox brushes, and so that's what I'm doing. If you want to see the video on that, I'll just put it right here. All right, so I am going to go first off in with the fluffiest brush, and this is from the Shape Matters Smashbox palette. And like I said, I'm going to go into Duchess and just put Duchess in the crease as my starting color. I'm going to use the mirror in the palette itself to do that. I'm not being too precise, I'm just laying down the color to drag it a little bit down here, even though it's a really fluffy brush. Which is fine, that works. I'll just deepen it up a tiny bit and then go into the other side. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Let's do the other side, and I'll just fast forward through that for you. Okay, so there is the Duchess. Keep having to look at the color names. This is the Duchess all set up in my crease and just along the lower lashes and lower lid, really. And I like the color so far. It's very flattering, and this could be a one shadow look on a natural shadow day. I think it looks pretty good. I am, though, going to go into Ladyship, as I said I would, and we're going to go in... yeah, I think I'm going to keep using this fluffy brush. We're going to go in the crease, blending into Duchess and onto the lid, and then I'll see if I use a different brush to put more of that matte shadow on the outer lid. Let's see what happens. Like I said, Ladyship did not swatch well, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything for a matte, so let's try. So I've got it on my brush, and let's go right in. Okay, so I used Ladyship all around the same area as Duchess, but a little bit lower. So I don't go quite as high up as Duchess or as low as Duchess. The only thing that I see here is I want to clean up a little bit. I feel like it's too intense on the outer edge of the shadow. So I'm going to use, it's going to sound weird, but a fluffy concealer brush to soften that up a little bit. And the one I'm talking about is this guy. So I'm going to go on the outer edge and just soften up the shadow. Now I'm not trying to take off too much shadow, I'm just trying to soften it up a little bit. And as you see some discoloration here and here, I have an eye that is still healing from a little accident, so don't pay attention to that. It's not the shadows, it's just my eye. Okay, I'm just going to blend a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to do the other eye again in fast forward. Okay, so I think those two eyes are pretty even. Now I want to move to a denser brush and get my outer lid with the matte, what is it called, Ladyship, more packed onto the lid. And so this fluffy brush will not do. Let me just switch. This is the brush I'm going to use. Now I do hope that Ladyship ends up being dark enough for what I'm trying to do. I am hoping that I can do Ladyship on the outer lid and then Queenmother on the center lid. We will see how it goes, and like I said, I might use Crown as well on the innermost lid. So let's go with Ladyship, packing it onto the brush, and let's go in. It's very different as a color when it's packed on compared to as a crease shade. It turns more brown when we're packing it on, well, not packing it on, but using a crease brush. Now, I know I had, what is it, Duchess underneath, but it's still, I'm surprised at how Ladyship turns either very sheer or slightly brown. I like the effect. I think it looks really good. I'm going to go with what's left on the brush. I'm going to go on the lower lash line. This brush is dense enough that it can act somewhat like a smudger. I do have a precise smudger in the Smashbox brushes, but I think this one, I did still want a softer look, not too much of a harsh line, so this seemed to do a good job. And let's go and do the other side in fast forward again. Okay, I do like this. I did even out again the left eye, my left, your right. And yeah, I just need to soften up the edges. I'll do that right now, and then we will talk about what I do for the inner lid. Okay, for the inner lid, we talked about Queenmother, which is this one, and again to go with Crown, possibly on the very inner lid. And I'm just going to do those two on the back of my hand to just confirm that that is going to look the way I'm hoping. It's not a bad thing to test out what you're planning on doing before you do it, right? Okay, Crown has more opacity than I expected. And because of that, I need to be really, really careful and not go too heavy on the inner lid. But they do end up overlapping in a reasonable manner, so I think I'm okay with that. But we're going to use Queenmother on most of the inner lid and that Crown just inner corner and just a little bit in. So in order to do that, I'm going to use my pinky to get onto the inner lid to center lid from really the inner corner out, and then I will put Crown, I will overlay Crown on Queenmother. So let's try it out. So I'm putting quite a bit on my pinky. I'm getting the mirror back. It's a beautiful color. I really want to go high and up in the crease. Yeah, I really like that color. You know what? I might just leave it as is. It's softer than I was expecting, and so I kind of like it just as is. Yeah, I'm going to leave it as is. It's a beautiful color, and I think I can just do the other side real quick in fast forward, and then we can see what else we do to finish up the look. Okay, I think this looks pretty good. I went a little bit higher than I expected over on this side and just used the blending, not the blending, but the concealer brush. I'm using it for a bunch of stuff. I used it on the inner lid just to soften up the edge on Queenmother, and I think it did an okay job. So this was an extra step I did not expect. I thought that just putting Queenmother would be enough, along with, I thought, Crown. But I realize now that my brow bone needs to kind of blend in with everything else, and I think that Heir will do that. And it's a very powdery matte. And I'm using it's called a contour shadow brush, again by Smashbox. And that color plays really well with Duchess, so that's really nice. Just going to get rid of a little bit of fallout. I am really happy with this look. I think it turned out pretty nice. And now I want to do liner and mascara to just finish things up. So let me just pick out what I'm going to end up wearing and then apply it, and we can do final thoughts. All right, I'm back. Let's just wrap this up nice and quick. So I did use the Annabelle on the upper waterline and tight lined at the upper lash line. I did use Rockstar on the lower waterline and lash line, so I went a little bit further down, but I think it's not as harsh as a black liner, so I think it works. I also did use the Lancôme Monsieur Big as my mascara, 2 coats on top, nothing really on the bottom except for a little bit of transfer, which, you know, might as well leave it on my lower lashes. And I also finished up with the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea as a setting spray. And I did refresh my lipstick with the NARS Velvet Glide, I think, called Bound. So that is what I have on my lips, and that is the final look. I'm not sad at not having used Crown. I will use it in another look, but I think it turned out quite nicely. I'm not upset about it at all. I think it is smoky purple, but I think it's also still wearable. Not too editorial, still more of an everyday look, and I'm pretty happy with it. If you see my right eye, your left watering a little bit, not sure what happened. I might have a lash in my eye or something, but definitely not an issue with the makeup because my left eye is not bothering me. So that is it. Thank you so much for joining me for my first official first impression with Coloured Raine, and I will definitely let you know how the overall shadows performed when I wrap up the overall brand new focus with this brand, which is Coloured Raine. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it very much. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. But for now, take care.